In this episode of the Luke Rogers podcast, I sit down with Jacob McKinnon, who's the founder of Harper's Realty. We talk about his background and his starting multiple companies in direct sales and moving into real estate and absolutely dominating the market in a few short years in a highly contested and saturated industry. So it's an excellent discussion. We talk about relationships, we talk about the hard times of business and some of the struggles that he's had. And it's just a totally terrific, fantastic conversation with someone who is absolutely killing it. So really hope you enjoy, and thanks for checking out the Luke Rogers podcast. Let's crack into it. Jacob, tell us a little bit about your background in sales and starting companies and all of that.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having us on, Luke. It's great to hang out with you today. I guess, I'm probably not the typical salesman. I'm a chef by trade, so I love cooking. Realized after sort of doing my apprenticeship that my true love was people. So that sort of led me into starting in sales, which I started in London in direct sales, a very raw face-to-face sales in the UK. And then sort of put myself in a position to build a business in London and then open another one in Norwich, another one in Leeds, and realized that sales was really my thing. And I think I probably got to a point where not only did I love selling, but I loved the ability to take someone that has no sales experience and being able to teach them how to crush it in sales. I think I sort of realized that was my second love. So selling and then also teaching people how to sell. We scaled a great business in the UK, came back, built out a great business here, sort of got that to a little over 127 staff, that business across Australia. Wow. Doing about 20 million a year in revenue, representing some of the biggest brands in the country, HelloFresh, Marley Spoon, you name it. And that was, I guess, the experience of sales, which has then sort of led me now into real estate, starting out 4 years ago, taking about a year to work it out. And then in the second year, getting to number one in my market, and then in the third year opening up an agency, and we've just been ranked number one in the Southern Highlands as an agency. So it's been a journey, but it's been fun, and I'm an absolute advocate for sales.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously it's worked out very well for you. What was the transition from direct sales? And correct me if I'm wrong, but that includes a bit of door-to-door sales, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So how did you go from door-to-door sales into real estate? How did that transition happen?
Yeah, so what's interesting, because anyone that works in our business still does door-to-door sales today in real estate. So we've sort of brought that over and really sort of made that an integral core role of being a sales agent with our brand. So I guess that transition happened when our business did collapse during COVID. So the brands that we worked with just decided that they didn't want to, engage with any face-to-face sales anymore, and so that meant our sort of journey there was over. We were losing about $100,000 a month through COVID. Got to the point where if we had kept going, sort of we would have been in a lot of strife. So we pulled the pin on that business, and for me, I had to make a decision of what I was going to do next. And I looked at everything from selling pest inspections to solar panels to you name it. I looked at all the different options that were available at the time, and decided on real estate. My pop was a real estate agent. My mum was a real estate agent. And I've had a lot of friends get into real estate that have always said, Jacob, I think you'd be pretty good at this. So I sort of made the decision to get into real estate. The way that looked is I did my real estate license in Queensland over Zoom. So I did a Queensland license. Took me 3 days to do that in my bedroom. I then transferred that license to a New South Wales license, and then all of a sudden I'm a qualified agent with no experience. So I was a class 1 agent with no experience. So I moved to Mudgee. Well, I traveled to Mudgee every week for 6 weeks and trained under Adam Woods, who I think is top 3 agent in Australia now. Trained under him, learned a lot from him. I got a sort of crash course on this is how you do real estate, and then came back to Sydney and made the decision to move our family from Sydney down to the Southern Highlands where we are today, and start in real estate.
Yeah, wow, that's such an interesting story. That must have been really tough with the business, how COVID happened and then you were losing so much money and faced with the decision of having to shut the business down. Was that one of the harder things you've had to deal with in business?
That was probably the hardest thing that I've dealt with in my life. And I think growing up, and you can handle tough challenges because it's only you. Where challenges get really, difficult is where you see other people suffering too. And for me, when I saw, our massive sales organization that we sort of spent years developing and building and time and effort with these people, and when I saw these people suffering and going, Jacob, we're not making any money because of COVID, we're going to either have to quit or, we just can't hang in there anymore. And the example is the Titanic. We knew the ship was going down and people were jumping off, and that was really tough. And then the second would be seeing my family struggle during that time, seeing our financial situation, really starting to get to a really concerning point, having to, take kids out of schools because we can't afford them, seeing my wife not be able to do the things that, she had been accustomed to doing. That was really, really hard. So yeah, that definitely was the toughest sort of point that I've experienced. And I sort of remember this one moment sitting on the stairs in our house in Wallara in Sydney, and I was just like by myself. I was just crying, and I was just like thinking, like, how the fuck am I going to get out of this? Like, and usually I've got a solution, right? But at that point, I didn't have one. I can't think how I'm going to be able to solve this problem. Normally I just work harder and can get there, but I was like, we are screwed here. And I remember our dog randomly coming up and sitting next to me and like consoling me. And I believe my dog and I, we have this special bond, that no one knows about. But, and anyway, so from that day forward, my trajectory definitely changed. I made the decision to stop drinking and made a decision to maybe change some of the people that I was spending time with and sort of some lifestyle choices. So yeah, that was a pivotal point in my life for sure.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's a really great story. How did you find the will to keep going through that really, really tough kind of dark place?
Yeah. I sort of looked at what were the options, right? And the options were that I just call it a day and do, unfortunately, what a lot of men do and go and, finish their lives. That for me, and people ask, did I consider suicide at that time? And the answer is no. And I definitely don't want to say that I did because it's not fair to people. But I knew that was an option at that time to sort of run away from this sort of tidal wave of pressure that I had no idea how to get through. Or the other option is just sort of focus on what I can do today. And what I could do today was call my mum. That helped. And she sort of gave me some advice. Call my mate, Adam. So sort of each day focusing on what I could do. The other thing that I did at that time is I read a book That's not true. I audio listened to book.
You can say read. I'm a fan of saying read because it's a book. It's an
I
audio book.
Claiming that, but I audio listened to book called the 5 a.m. Club, and it really helped me. The three things that I implemented was when I get up in the morning, take 20 minutes to just write stuff down. Right? And it's not about being strategic with journaling. I would just write down whatever thought was in my mind. And I'd write it down. And every day I did that for 20 minutes. And sometimes it was really weird. Sometimes I'd have a whole page written down in front of me and I'd run out of paper. Like, all right, next page, right? Next. Other days I'd write 2 words and be like, that's all there is that day, right? So I did that 20 minutes. 20 minutes of high intensity exercise. So I'd go for a run for 20 minutes and then 20 minutes of meditation. And that's really hard when you're sort of a sales guy that operates at pretty high intensity 24/7. So meditating for me was really hard, but 20 minutes of meditating helped. I did that 5 a.m. Club structure aligned with something else called 75 Hard, which is worth investigating. And 75 Hard is where you don't drink for 75 days. You do a 5-minute shower for 75 days. You read 10 pages of a non-fiction book. You eat healthy. So you do it 75 days. I did the 5 a.m. Club with 75 Hard during the toughest time of my life. And it's sort of, I think, that all helped me kind of, get out of that situation.
I'm a huge fan of those tactical actions that help move you along. I think that's so powerful, and a lot of those behaviors. Did you find the meditation tough because you felt like there was a pressure that you should be doing something more productive?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm going to say no to that. Now I do. Now I do. My doctor recommends that I meditate all the time, and I really struggle with it now. But back then it was okay because I was doing it at 5 a.m. in the morning. So the meditating was the last section of that hour, and no one else was awake at that time. So I don't know if you feel this too, but I always feel a bit guilty doing something like meditating when other people just kind of need me. Then I find it hard. But when no one else is awake, I find it okay.
Yeah, it feels a bit selfish and indulgent to sit there and focus on nothing but your thoughts or your breath or whatever your meditation is. But I think it is probably one of the biggest bang for your buck things you can do. I'm a huge believer in it. So I think it's excellent.
Yeah.
I found it help with the pressure stuff, which one of the things I was going to ask you about was the pressure of sales. And you've obviously been in some really high stress, high pressure situations. What is some of the most stressful situations you've been in sales or in business, and how have you managed to deal with that?
Yeah. I think, in any property sale it's a highly stressful environment because for most people, unless it's, an investor buying their, 10th home, right? But for most people, the interesting stat is most people will buy and sell 3 times in their life. It's the average. And for most people, it's the most amount of money they have is caught up in that transaction.
Yeah.
It's everything to them. And I would say nearly every property transaction is a serious amount of stress caught up in that. In a market, which I guess is, for me, when I started in real estate, it was 2022, January, where it was just after COVID and the market was starting to dip, right? So I've only ever known selling property in a falling market. It's all I've ever known, right? That's been interesting because the vendor expectation most of the time is still sort of in COVID times where they thought the property was worth here, but it's actually worth here. And then you've got buyers that want to pay here. So every one of those transactions is stressful. Is there one specifically that comes to mind? Yeah, probably. We did a sale recently, a little over $6.5 million, and for that vendor, they were absolutely in tears that their house hadn't sold. So when we were able to secure that sale, I've never seen a couple so happy, because I think sometimes, especially with big rural properties where we live in the Southern Highlands, I think for a lot of vendors, they get to a point where they just give up. Like they just give up. And they're like, we're just never going to sell. And as an agent, sometimes you can sort of feel like, I kind of agree. But just sort of having that tenacity and determination to stick it out. And that was an example of, we just stuck it out, and this buyer turned up and they were happy to pay the price. So that was an awesome result for sure.
Have you ever had a deal almost fall through that you've been able to save, and how did you manage that?
That happens a lot, for sure. And it's a competitive game, right? If someone wants to buy a property from me, there'll be other agents calling them saying, don't buy it. Did you not know about the train station? Do you not know about the power lines? Do you not know about the flight path? Do you not know about flooding? Like, that's challenging, right? So you can get someone on board, and there's an interesting statistic that people will commit to buy something and then give themselves 7 reasons why not to buy that product or service on average before that actually transacts. So they sort of have interest and they reach this peak point of motivation or impulse to buy that product, service, or property. They go, we're going to buy it. And then as soon as they make that decision, they start thinking about why they shouldn't buy it. So, that is common. Is there a specific deal where that's happened? I would say in any high-end property, there is always friends, family, conveyances. I had a deal fall over this morning where a conveyancer convinced the purchaser that it wasn't a good idea. So that everyone's got an opinion, and it's sometimes you've just got to, I always use the analogy. It's like rounding up sheep, and when you're rounding up sheep, my pa was a farmer, and I used to watch him do it, and he would do it really calm and gently, and sort of not sort of rush them. And I remember as kids, we would sort of run at the sheep and be yelling and trying to hee-haw, get them into the gates. And he'd be like, guys, pull back. The sheep knows what to do. It'll follow the other sheep. Just pull back. And I think that lesson as a 5-year-old has helped me in sales. Sometimes a sale is not about, running at the deal and making the noise. It's about pulling back and knowing when to push, but also knowing when to let the deal just happen. So, yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to white knuckle a deal that's so emotive, right? Especially when people have got so much money and emotion on the line. Housing is one of the most emotional topics, I think, in Australia, right? So I can imagine that would be really hard. I love that analogy. That's really good one.
Especially when you're an agent on commission only. Like, I've only ever worked on commission only. I don't even know what a salary feels like, right? So for a lot of agents, in a tough market where you want to get a deal done, you got to be careful that you don't want to get the deal done more than the person that wants to purchase the property. Because as we know, we don't like to be sold to. Most people hate to be sold to, but love to buy. Yep. So I think that, a great salesperson is someone that has the ability to create an environment where the person can purchase in their own way.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You mentioned before the competitive nature of it, and having other agents come in and tell them why they shouldn't buy it or whatever. Tell me a little bit about the online and the general negativity and competition that you've experienced in the area.
Yeah, okay, yep. I'm by no means sort of trying to align with people that are super famous. But what I have experienced, even quite recently, is what I guess people call trolling. So we put out a lot of content in a lot of different formats, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. We get a lot of Spotify, and there has been people that, for whatever reason, and it's been interesting. The one that we had recently, this person was really positive, always commenting really positive, and then just turned, and then all of a sudden wanted to hate me. And I think that they did that because they weren't happy that I wasn't sort of engaging on a more personal level with them. And I think that that's a lesson that I've learned. And I had a chat to my coach about this, and he has sort of reminded me that whatever you put out there is there for everybody to see. So just, always ask yourself that question. Do I want to really let people know where I live? Do I really want to expose my family? And most people online, in my experience, have been really positive. Like, most have been really positive. I've probably had some experiences that have shocked even me and have given me a taste of what it must be like. And I can handle most things. I've been through a lot in my life, but I sort of really feel for teenagers if they're going through sort of online bullying and trolling. And I probably didn't appreciate that. And I've got 2 teenagers. I didn't appreciate that until it happened to me, what that feels like. And I think as a teenager, you don't really know how to deal with that. And it's an interesting statistic that the most stress you will feel in your life is from 15 to 18. And it's not that what's happening to you is much worse than what happens to you later. It's just your ability to deal with that. You haven't experienced those things before, so you don't know how to deal with stress. So that's been interesting. And then I guess just from a competition point of view, because I'm sort of new in the real estate space, ranks number 1 really quickly in my second year, which probably surprised a lot of people that have been doing this for a long time. And now as an agency, now that we're ranking number 1 as an agency, that is also surprising people too. So there's always going to be haters and people out there that want to try and bring you down or don't like how you do things. And we're known for doing things differently. We're proud that we sort of do things differently to how potentially, my mum sold property back in the day, and she was a great agent, but we do things differently for sure.
Yeah, there's it definitely seems to be the new way, social media. You're obviously doing a podcast and really embracing this new media way of doing things. And I mean, but also sounds like you're integrating really well with the old way of doing things, door knocking, flyers.
Yes.
The boards, like all of the things that traditionally work well, but integrating that with social media. It sounds like it's absolutely being a winning strategy for you.
Yeah.
But I've heard that, and this has been true in my experience, with the little bit of online hate that I've received since starting to build my own brand and going a little bit public. But you'll never get criticism or kind of hate criticism. Someone might give you feedback or constructive criticism, but you'll never get hate or destructive criticism from someone who's doing better than you. Is that true in your experience?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
And fair play to you, Luke, because you're doing an unbelievable job. And I think people don't realize the kind of comfort zones that you have to break to put yourself out there. And mate, you're smashing them day by day. It's cool. And your content's just so engaging. It's cool.
Thank you. Trying really hard. I think it's just a skill like anything you've got to build. And also exposure therapy. So I've little side story. I did an article probably about 10 years ago when Emily and I first started the investment property journey, and we bought a heap of properties, and then we got a bit of media attention, and they came, I think it was, someone came and gave us an interview, and we started talking about it, and it was cool, and I thought, all right, sweet. And I was in the military at the time, so I had to get protected identity, so I couldn't really be public, working in special operations. So I had to get all the approvals and stuff, but I did that, did the interview, and the article kind of went a little bit viral. And it was my first taste of really being public. And I can't tell you the anxiety and the stress that I felt. And I know I shouldn't have read the comments, but you do. And there was just some like people making horrible comments, and it really does get to you.
It does.
And it really put me off doing anything like this for a very long time. But then I decided that the possible benefits far outweigh the downside. I think it's a very fixed and shallow downside.
Yeah.
Whereas there's an exponential asymmetric upside to being public, just with what you can do. And so then through the daily posting and doing all that, it's kind of been my exposure therapy to dealing with a lot of that. Yeah. And like you said, most of it's really positive, but some of it has been a bit negative. But a lot of it's like been awesome, but then you get the odd, especially start talking about military stuff, right? Yeah. People can be very anti-military, saying, talking about how you murder people and all those sort of horrible things and war crimes and stuff, which obviously I haven't done. But yeah, I mean, it can be really tough. So I've got a newfound respect for people who are willing to put themselves out there. Yeah. And my hat's off to you because you're doing really, really well with the content, and I'm watching like a lot of your stuff, and it's challenging, and it's but I think it's well worth it, and it seems to have done really well for you and your agency. So
definitely, and I was listening to Ed Sheeran on the way here today.
Okay,
and that's an interesting example, but as many people will know, Ed Sheeran doesn't have a mobile phone.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He got rid of it like a long time ago, but puts out loads of content. What's interesting, he doesn't look at any of his own content. He's not on Instagram. We see him on Instagram, but he's not on Instagram. And the amount of stuff that you see from Ed Sheeran, to think that he personally isn't engaging with any of that, and how pure he's been able to stay, and how consistent he's been able to be in his career by not buying into, I guess, the negative feedback. He just has gone, no, I'm not even going to take any of it in.
So true, yeah. I think you got to be the sword of Gryffindor. Only taking that which makes you stronger.
Yes.
I can't take credit for that. That's a whole mosey thing, but
I like it.
But it's good. It is a good one.
Yeah.
So I thought I might fire some quotes at you, and just things that I've seen you do, and see what you think. But so I saw you say, "Some will, some won't. So what? Who's next?" Tell me about that.
That's a good one. It's a slight change on that one, but it's some will, some won't. Who cares? Who's next?
Sorry. Yeah. My bad. I misquoted.
You got that real close. Some will, some won't. Who cares? Who's next? That is probably my life mantra. Okay. That one, and I think that came early on in the days when I was doing door-to-door sales, and you pitch somebody, and they'll say no. Well, that's okay. Some people will buy from you, some won't. So just let it go. And who cares? Don't take it on board. Like don't carry it with you. Leave it where it was. Who's next?
Yeah.
And just move on to that next prospect. So that's a sales analogy, but I've used that now in everything that we do. Some people will like you, some won't. Who cares? Who's next? Yeah. That's definitely one of the quotes we live by.
I think it's good for content as well.
Yeah.
Because you're putting stuff out there. Some people are going to resonate, some people aren't.
True.
And you're not going to do it in one. And so you go, all right, what's the next bit of content, and who's the next person I'm going to reach, and will that resonate with someone else? So I think it's actually really brilliant in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Not just sales.
Content is interesting. The stuff that has done really well for us, and I say got lots of views and engagement, is not stuff that I thought would. That's really interesting. And then the stuff that I put a lot of time and effort into that I think is going to do really well, sometimes it doesn't. So, it's a learning game for sure. Yeah. I haven't cracked it yet either. Yeah. Just keep putting as much content out as possible, right?
The thing, I don't think anyone's cracked it. Just my theory. I watch probably too much, but now getting into this sort of realm, I watch a lot, and then some guru will say, oh, do this to blow up on Instagram. You try that, and it doesn't obviously work. So there's no, I think, foolproof strategy. I think it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
And after a while, you do start to get a little bit of an intuition on what is kind of going to work and what maybe won't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think once again, it's just about getting the reps in and getting better. You said be interested, not interesting. Tell me about that.
Okay, so that one again, you got it real close as well. You're done well here.
Sorry, I'm misquoting you, but
yeah. Be interested before being interesting. Okay. It is an approach that we teach our team and that we live by, which is take a minute to get to know someone else before you expect them to want to get to know you. And I think you can use that in everything that you do. If you go to a dinner party, take a minute to go and get to know someone before you try and be the center of attention. And then that's sort of those follow-on questions. As an example, hi Luke, what were you doing before you were doing this? What's your answer?
Well, I was in the army for 18 years and
okay, so stop there. You're in the army, right? A lot of people stay really surface deep. They're not interested. Like they're not interested. They're just throwing that question out there because they think that's, going to help build a little bit of rapport and keep moving. But if I'm interested, I will then follow up with another question on top of the question. You're in the army. Wow, that must have been an incredible journey. If you don't mind me asking, what was the sort of most memorable moment or moments from your career? Now you're like, this guy's interested in me. You're more likely to want to engage with me, to be open with me. And more importantly, you're more likely to remember me. If you meet 10 people, then I'm the person that asks a few questions about a topic, not, hey, Luke, what are you doing before you go? I'm in the army. And I go, oh, cool, that must be good. I like your shoes. Where are they from? Oh, they're from this shop. Oh, great, cool. And your watch, I like that too. Where's that? Like, that's someone just being really surface level, and you'll struggle to build deep connections quickly. And this is our business is all about building deep connections as quick as you can, because you don't have a lot of time with a potential seller or someone else. So that's where that sort of comes from.
That's really good. I really like that. It reminds me of I did a little bit of called tactical questioning and building rapport with people in some of my roles in the military, just operating in the human terrain, human space sort of things. And I found it really interesting. But one of the things I liked, and it kind of taps onto what you're saying, is you ask basic interrogatives, not leading questions, not closed questions, not yes, no questions. Things like who, what, when, where, how. How was that? What did you do? And then once they get talking, they can tell that story, and you latch onto a point and be like, oh, okay, that's really interesting. What about what did you do in there? And once you've got enough things, I'll mention something that you can latch onto and be like, yeah, so in the army example, it would be like, oh, yeah, I was in Brisbane and then I went to Sydney to do special operations. And then you're like, oh, special operations, tell me about that. And you can latch onto individual things, and then it really expands out. And back in the day, it was a good pickup technique because you'd ask them about them, and then once they're talking about themselves, and people's favorite topic of conversation is themselves, I find. So I think that's a terrific little hack. I really like it.
Yeah.
Interested before you are interesting.
That's it.
I like it a lot. I think it's it's a good way to build rapport.
Yeah.
And sell because you want to, not because you need to.
Yeah. You can always see when someone is trying to sell you something because they really need to sell it. And I think that ties into what we spoke about before, that we don't like to be sold to, but we love to buy. And if someone's selling something to you and you get a feeling that they're not desperate for you to have this product, service, or property, you get that feeling, you're then sort of thinking, is that maybe because they've got someone else that wants to buy the property? Maybe they're not desperate for us to buy it. Maybe they've got someone else that wants to buy it. You start creating this thought in your mind. If it's a product or service, you think, well, maybe that's because they don't think we can, afford this product or service. And you're like, well, I want to show them I can afford this product or service. So, getting people to be more motivated about buying is probably where that one ties into. And it's just nice to buy things from people that are calm, cool, and collected.
Yeah. Smell the desperation.
You can.
Yeah. I'm going to change topics a little bit here, but when you changed business, you started to do the intense exercise. Have you always exercised quite a lot, or did that come when you sort of changed businesses and pivoted during COVID?
So I've always lifted weights, and that came from being very skinny growing up. They used to call me Noodle. Yeah, or Maggie Noodle.
I can relate. I was tall and skinny growing up. So.
You know what it's like, right?
Yeah.
So I think as soon as I could start sort of lifting weights and putting on some size, I did. So I've always lifted, but then probably fell into the trap of not doing cardio and thinking that just because I was lifting and looking big and strong that I was sort of fit and healthy. And then when sort of the sort of business collapse period of our life, I decided to just make things extra hard. I think I was looking for things at that time that were harder than what I was going through. I was trying to sort of find things that were extremely difficult, random way to do it. But so I got into triathlons. And if you're not a triathlete, the hardest thing that you can do is a triathlon. If you're a triathlete, then you're fine, right? Yeah. You smash it out. But if you're not, swimming 1.5 kilometers in the ocean while people are kicking you in the head in front of you and smashing you with their arms, that is tough. Then getting on a bike and riding for 40 kilometers in wet swimmers, that's uncomfortable and tough. And then jumping off that bike and running 10 kilometers is really bloody difficult when you're not a runner. So I did that, my first triathlon, and it was the toughest physical thing I've done, but the most rewarding thing that I've done. So I got really into it. So then I did another one, and then ended up competing at Noosa and doing quite well and lost 15 kilos and really got into it. I loved it. And then my knees started to really hurt every time I go for a run. So I thought, okay, maybe this is not, sustainable long term. So then I got into what people would be familiar now. It's sort of quite popular at the moment. What's called High Rocks, which is sort of 8 stations, 8Ks, and you can do it with a partner. So I did a few of those by myself, and then I've just done one recently with a great friend of mine, and doing it together was awesome. And the next one's coming up in Melbourne, so on the 12th of December. So that's been what I really enjoy doing now, because there's a little bit of running, there's 8K of running, but there's also some strength stuff happening there as well.
Yeah, that's cool. What time did you get on that last one?
1:13.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
We're going for 1:10, not 1:10 or under, so we missed it by a little bit, but we've got we know where we need to improve, and that's me being as fast as my partner running wise.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
That's my section to improve in my High Rocks race.
Right. So how many times a week are you training for these High Rocks events?
6. Yeah, 6. I'm probably training, about 6 days a week. Yeah.
You have started Harper's. You've founded Harper's with your wife, Anya. Tell me a little bit how you've grown that so quickly and breaking into a pretty established market. So whilst transitioning into real estate and founding a company and scaling it, how has that happened?
Yeah. Which you are right. The brands that are doing well here have been doing well here for a very long time, where we are. We, when met the big household names and went and sat down with the directors and the board of directors of all of these companies, and they're incredible companies. And I do want to say that if you're looking to set up your own business, you should consider them. You should consider the big brands, because they provide you an incredible amount of support, back end operations, and they're great. We made a conscious decision that we wanted to become a big company, not build within someone else's big company. And for that to happen, we had to start from scratch. We had to set up our own brand. So we decided on calling the business Harper's, which is not the name of my daughter, as many people have asked me. It's sort of inspired by a few things. My wife is a beautiful person and has a real love and background in fashion, loves Harper's Bazaar. So we kind of like that sort of influence and brand aesthetic. And then my family built a property here in Berrima called Harper's Mansion, and then the pub and some other stuff here in Berrima. So we thought, you know what, let's name it Harper's. So we called it Harper's. My wife, who, as I said, background in fashion and operations, myself in sales, we said, let's just give this a crack. And we recruited a great agent, another great agent, a great support staff to myself. My EA is just incredible. I spend more time on the phone to her than anyone else. And we're growing. Our goal is to have 30 people within our business by 2030. We've just taken on a new office space that will launch in October. That will be a real flagship location here in Barrel, which we're really excited about. And then our goal is to keep expanding. And for us, we see the brand as a brand that will, I guess, always be a boutique luxury brand in those markets. So in those luxury lifestyle, rural equine markets, we can see that our brand really fits in those markets. Do we ever perceive that our brand will be in Melbourne, in Sydney, in Brisbane? It's not a goal, but if we have people that want to go that direction, sure. But we do see our brand belonging in places like Battery Point in Tasmania, like Mornington Peninsula in Melbourne, like Byron Bay, Berry, these places that are just places you want to go and visit. They're the places that we can see our brand really flourishing, and we're fortunate. It's been a great start. It's been a lot of hard work, and we only just now, we're coming up to 12 months. We're only just now starting to feel like it's sort of momentum of the brand is starting to move forward. And the example of building a business that I was given a long time ago, building a business is like making a snowball. And when you make a snowball, and I've just come back from the snow, it's probably why it's quite fresh, but when you make a snowball, you get down on your hands and knees, and it's cold and it's not nice, and you're kind of pulling this snow together, and you're kind of putting this little ball together. And it's sort of hard work, right? And then you're doing more and 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 more. And the idea is you do it at the top of the hill, right? And then what you do, the snowball gets to a level where you can actually get off your knees, and it's no longer like cold and hurting, and you're sort of just like tapping snow onto this snowball. And then the snowball kind of gets big enough that you can actually not even have to use your hands anymore, and you can start kind of kicking the ball along, right? And you're like, man, my hands aren't cold anymore. I'm not on the ground. I'm just kicking this thing along, and it's sort of, getting bigger and bigger, because as it rolls, it collects other snow because the snowball's so big. And then what happens if you put it at the top of the hill and you roll it down the hill, by the time it gets to the bottom, it'd be big enough to knock over a house. It's such a big snowball, right? And I think for me, building a business is just like that. At the beginning, it's so hard, and all you do is that business. You don't see a lot for the effort that you put in. Everyone thinks you're crazy. Get off the ground, mate. What are you doing? But then you get to a point that it's so big, and everyone's like, wow, look what you've created. And I think we're at the stage now in our business that we're definitely off the ground, and we're probably sort of about to start kicking it with our feet and getting some serious momentum. We're getting people every week coming to us wanting to work with us. We're we seem to be attracting, not purposely, but we seem to be attracting really driven, motivated, high performance style individuals. And we seem to also be attracting a lot of young people, a lot of people that are still at school asking about getting into real estate. And I'm so proud of the real estate industry in Australia. We've just sort of ranked as a top 10 career choice for people leaving school, which when I left school, I think real estate was just above car salesman at the very bottom of the list.
Wow.
So to think that we're now in the top 10, I think that's a massive progression for this industry.
Yeah, cool. Do you think young and hungry, or I don't say old and experienced, but a little bit more experienced, if you had to choose?
I think you need both. I think you need a lot of young and hungry, and then you need a few old and experienced.
Yeah. And with scaling your business, how much time do you split between putting out fires, doing the busy work, the urgent stuff, versus the important scaling and building the business, the stuff that is harder to set time aside for, but is super important to do?
Yeah. I'm probably 80% sort of hustling, selling, grinding, sort of doing that part of the business, and then 20% focused on scaling, recruiting, growing. Yeah. What are the what are the things that we can implement that are going to make lives easier? And, I've got to give it to Anya. That's, really a lot of what she does. She really thinks in that highly efficient space. I'm the guy that will sort of just keep cutting with the axe when the axe is blunt. And Anya will teach me, well, maybe we should sharpen the axe from time to time, or maybe get an automatic saw.
Yeah, there's smarter ways to do things.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
So speaking of your wife, you guys just recently celebrated your 18-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Luke. Thank you, mate.
That's a great achievement.
Yeah.
So obviously she's super impressive individual as well. She's got, I believe, a commerce degree and a master's degree.
Yeah.
And how important is it, in your experience, to pick the right person, the right partner in life?
I guess I'm lucky because I sort of came across and found Anya when I was very young. I was only 20 at the time. She was a little bit older. And we were in Dublin. She was the glass girl, didn't really speak English. I was a chef in the restaurant there. And I was lucky that I found the love of my life at that time. I think from looking back, you don't really get to choose when you meet that person. Like, it just kind of happens. So I think that I would not. Well, my mum doesn't even think I would be alive if I didn't meet Anya.
Wow.
Yeah, I was a bit of a risk taker as a young fella. But I definitely wouldn't. We wouldn't be as successful as we are without Anya. No way. She has been an integral part of my professional life, and then from a family point of view, I don't know anyone else that would have stuck by someone like me in those early days. In those early days, I was starting work at 8 o'clock in the morning, leaving the office at about 10 o'clock at night, 6 days a week. And that was full on. And she stuck by me. She would stick by me to the point that I'd get home. I remember living in where were we at that time? We were in Paddington in London. And I would get home at 11 o'clock at night on the Central Line on the tube. And she would not have eaten dinner until I got home so she could eat dinner with me.
Wow.
I'd eat dinner, fall asleep in my suit, wake up the next day, go to work at 7. And she stuck by me. And that was so impressive. And I don't see many relationships lasting during those times these days. And I don't know what it is. I think that young people these days expect to live a life where their partners are around all the time. And whether it's, the female that's out hustling and grinding or the male or both, I think what's really important that I've learned is spending your 20s really grinding to create the person that you want to be for the rest of your life happens in your 20s. And I think that Anya's been great allowing that. I hope that I've been able to support her in the same way, but I'm forever grateful for that, for sure. And the fact that she's an absolute stunner is great too. Right? It's a positive.
Yeah, it's always nice.
Yeah, it helps. It helps. Yeah.
It's a bit of a Southern Highlands power couple.
Oh yeah, thank you.
The Alex and Layla Hormozy of the Southern Highlands. Some would say. Oh, I just made that up. What would your advice be to young people in relationships these days?
Be patient. Like, don't fight every battle. Like, have a little bit of forgiveness about you. Don't people make mistakes. Don't drill your partner for every mistake she makes or he makes. Realize that you're going through a growing phase. Support each other, and be aware of influences. Be aware of drinking. You may not realize at the time, but it can be really bad for relationships. Drugs, as fun as they are at the time, they can be really bad for relationships. And then toxic people, like having great quality people around you is so underrated and underspoken about. But I think when you're young, you're kind of just open to everyone being your friend. It's like, I met this guy at the gym. He's a great guy. Oh, why is he a great guy? Oh, because we go clubbing and he does loads of cocaine. Well, I think when you're young, take a minute to think, is this person on the same trajectory that I want to be on? And if they are, great. And, if that couple is, great. As a young couple, surround yourself with other positive couples at all different ages too, right? Like, they don't need to be young too, but just surround yourself with positive influences. If you surround yourself with other couples that don't get on, from my experience, I have noticed that you probably will end up not getting on with your partner too. So be aware of that.
Yeah, I think I saw a stat. Actually, I think it was on Modern Wisdom. Chris Williamson was talking about this, but if you have friends that are divorced, you're more likely to get divorced.
For sure. Yeah.
Which is, a really important point. So what would you say to people who say, because you said before you should spend your 20s kind of really hustling to build that person you want to be. What would you say to people who say, well, your 20s, you should live it up. You're only young once. Why don't you have fun and travel and do all the things and go to the parties?
Yeah. Yeah. I think you've got to make a conscious decision there. You do. You can still have fun. You can still, I had a lot of fun in my 20s for sure, but I worked my ass off in my 20s to the point that my, friends and family are like, man, you're crazy. You're working way too hard. You've just got to make a decision, because either you do it in your 20s or you're going to have to do it later anyway, if that's what you want, right? Like, and I've got some great friends that probably don't want to work the way that I did and do. And that's fine. They've got great jobs. They make great money. They live in nice homes and they do nice things. That's fine. Like, you just got to think about what is your version of your life that you want to live? What is the blueprint that you're aiming for? What do you want? And then just be aware that at some point, if what you want is something pretty awesome, at some point you're going to have to put the effort in. So if you don't do it in your 20s, that's okay. But that means you will have to do it in your 30s.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it then, that's okay. There's people that have started from scratch at 40 and, done really well. But I also spend time with people now that are in their 40s and are retiring. I sell homes to people that turn up. I'm like, what do you do? They're in their 40s and they're like, oh, I'm retired. I just sold my business for 20 million. You're like, that's cool. And now they're doing some really cool stuff. So like just decide the life that you want for sure.
Yeah, I've got a couple of mental models for that. I like to think of your deathbed and like where you want to be, who do you want there, like what, I guess, where are you living at that point in your life? And then you just work back, make sure all the decisions you're making are getting you to that point.
Yeah, okay.
And I do that from a personal perspective, like who do you want there by your side as you're dying, literally? And if it's your wife, kids and grandkids, which that's what it is for me, then I've got to make decisions that mean that my wife doesn't leave me, my kids don't hate me, and all those sort of things, right?
And you spoil the grandkids, right?
And you spoil the grandkids, exactly. You know what I mean? Like if that's what I want my deathbed to be, then I've got to be making those decisions now. Yeah. Whereas if I'm, I don't know, just working too hard or away all the time or decided to put career first and not spend enough time on the family, like obviously you've got to balance that and have your ambitions and build the life that you want. But I think you're 100% right. The other mental model I like is it's like the Matrix. Yeah. You know, when he goes out of the Matrix, he's got all the shaved head and the plugs and everything, goes back into the Matrix and he looks cool again. He's got like the cool clothes and his hair's back and it's like, this is your residual self-image.
Yes.
It's like, is your ideal self-image. It's like if you could go out of the Matrix, the simulation, and come back and be whatever you wanted to be.
Yeah.
Like
what would that be?
And how can you build that person? How can you be that person?
Yeah,
so
I like it.
I really like your perspective on that. It's really good. So we're over your time. Can we talk quickly about the market? A bit in the Highlands, but post the budget, what have you noticed in the real estate market as a whole, and particularly Southern Highlands, kind of Sydney adjacent markets in real estate?
Since the budget, I have not met an investor since. That's it, right?
They just dried up.
Gone. So we are dealing with owner-occupiers. We're dealing with lifestyle purchasers, people that want a weekender. We're dealing with people helping their kids, which I think is cool. I'm dealing with people that probably would have been an investor, but now they're helping their kids buy a house. I'm like, that's cool.
Why not?
That's it. We're finding that the sort of luxury market, the high-end market is really kicking on now for owner-occupiers, where people are going, let me sell down my 5 investment properties at $1 million each, take that $5 million, and then, sell my current home at $3 million, and take $8 million and then go and buy my primary place of residence at $8 million.
PPOR maxing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So we're seeing that has happened. That has been a post-budget change for sure, and a drive in that end of the market. And it's not as bad as people think. The Southern Highlands market has dropped 0.66%, overall, sort of bigger drop in the lower end, less of a drop in the higher end, but overall it hasn't been as dramatic as the media is making out it is. So buyers, just so you know, it's not as bad as you're hoping it is. So, don't try and think you can buy properties as cheap as you do. And for sellers, don't stress. It's okay. It hasn't dropped as much as people think. So that's the market. What do I think is going to happen over the coming years? I think there's going to be really slow growth, which is okay. That's all right. There's going to be people that get married and want to buy a home. There's going to be people that have another child and need a bigger home. There's going to be people that their children move out and they need a smaller home. There's going to be people that get divorced and they need 2 homes. There's going to be people pass away and that home needs to be sold. So the market will continue to go and continue to tick over. Mm-hmm. I think there's just not an overinflated buoyancy in the market that there has been over the last few years.
Yeah. You've really timed your entry into real estate well, haven't you? Post-COVID, slow down, budget. It's a challenging market. I always like to say that in a boom market, everyone flocks to real estate, right? Because they see just money flowing around. But you've done the opposite.
Yes.
I think that's a real credit to you.
Yeah.
You've come into tricky markets and been able to still be successful.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. Do you see similar in Sydney? Are you much dialed into Sydney market, or mainly?
No, I do some training with some Sydney agents. So yeah, I sort of spend some time with them, and the messaging that I'm getting from them is that the sort of values are a long way off. That they're listing properties at, some of these guys at 15 million as an example, but then they're actually selling them for 8.
Wow.
Like they're massive drops in that market in Sydney. And I don't know what's driving that. What impact is that having on our market down here? Well, we sell to about 85% of people that are out of area. Most of those people are in the eastern suburbs. And yeah, they're definitely not coming down as aggressive as they were before, just willing to pay whatever you're asking for. They're sort of doing a lot more due diligence. They're doing a lot more research. They're seeing a lot more homes before they sort of make a purchase. So the buyer is more educated than they were before, and that's good. That's really good. That's okay. That's good for us. That's okay.
Awesome. So, noting the investors have dried up, what's your advice to people? Because I think there's a lot of people holding on now. I think, do you see that a lot of investors will hold on, or do you think that there's going to be a lot of selling of those investment stock? But noting that if you can grandfather your negative gearing, do you think investors will just hold on and that'll reduce the stock on the market, or do you not see that?
I'm selling for a lot of investors. On the way here, I got a phone call from an investor who wants me to sell 3 of their investment properties. We've, just taken on 6 properties in Mollymook, same thing. So I think that investors at the moment will continue to sell down their investments and restructure where they're putting money, whether that be into their primary place of residence, whether that be into stocks and shares, whether that be into their children, or whether that be holding cash. We're seeing a bit of that as well. So, as the interest rates go up, as hard as that is in the property market for people that are borrowing, it's great news if you've got a lot of cash. You put it in the bank. I think that the sort of landscape has definitely changed, and we've created an environment here in Australia that you can get away with doing that. So, if a new government gets voted in, who knows what they're going to do? Yeah. They might completely change the rules again. And I think that's the interesting thing in Australian politics, or I don't know world politics, but Australia, is that the rules can change while you're playing. So if you can imagine playing a game of soccer and you're not allowed to touch the ball, right? As we know, the World Cup's just been on. You can't handball. You can't touch the ball. But can you imagine halfway through the game, the ref goes, okay, new rules, you can now touch the ball. Like the game changes, right? Yeah. And I think that with our country, you just have to realize that is the deal. And there is a lot of people that are leaving our country because of that, going to Dubai, UK, because they want some stability with the rules. And I think that's where Dubai has done a great job with that. But I think in Australia, you just need to understand the rules can change. And if they do, you just have to play the best you can to a new set of rules. And if you're someone that's really good at throwing the ball with your hand, then the new rules might benefit you.
Yeah.
And these new rules that have come out are benefiting some people. So who knows what the rules are going to be in a few years' time. But
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of that. I think you just got to play your cards the best you can, and you do the best you can with what you know at the time, and then just be adaptable. It's probably agility is a great skill in the modern economies.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This has been awesome discussion. I've just thought of a million more questions. We could probably sit here for ages talking, but it's been a really good chat. Thank you so much for coming on. Super interesting and awesome to pick your brain, and you're doing incredibly well. So huge congratulations on everything. And thank you so much for coming on.
Luke Rogers, great to be here. Thanks, mate.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Legend. Thanks so much.
All right.